Listen, I'm about to tell you something that, once you hear it, you won't see complaints in a relationship the same way again. And no, this isn't a video to hate anyone. This is about a mechanism that makes one person never feel enough and the other person get ground down until they're basically a shadow that apologizes for breathing. There's a trap I call the moving target. It works like a black hole. You throw time, money, attention, patience into it, and it just swallows everything. You buy a gift, wrong kind. You plan a date, wrong place. You help around the house, you're doing it wrong. You don't help, you don't care. You lean in, you're suffocating. You pull back, you're cold. You make more money, you're never home. You stay home, you have no ambition. And every time you fix one thing, a brand new problem gets manufactured, so you keep running. And here's the dark part. If you don't recognize this mechanism, you'll do one thing perfectly. You'll destroy yourself. You'll start tracking moods by the hour, reading facial expressions just to know when it's safe to talk, living in your own home like you're disarming a bomb. You'll apologize for things you don't even understand yet, and one day you'll look up and realize you turned the relationship into a full-time job, and the paycheck is contempt. Now listen closely. A lot of the time this isn't because you're failing. It's because you're playing a game that has no finish line. There is no "we're good now," no "that's enough." Just a bucket with no bottom, and you're the only one still pouring. In the next couple minutes, I'm going to give you 3 signs you're stuck in this loop and 2 exits that stop the bleeding without turning your relationship into a war. But first, quick 10-second test. If you keep hearing, "I only need you to," and a few days later that "only" turns into a brand new list, the problem isn't that you're not trying hard enough, it's the rules of the game you're being dragged into. I'm going to show you what the moving target actually is, why it feels so personal, and why it drains you even when you're doing everything right. First, let's define it clearly. The moving target isn't someone being impossible. It's a relationship pattern where satisfaction never stabilizes, because the brain keeps relabeling okay as not enough. Here's what makes it so brutal. You're not being judged on a fixed standard. You're being judged on a standard that changes based on mood, fear, stress, comparison, and unmet needs that were never yours to solve. So you do what any good person does. You adapt. You try harder. You become more attentive, more productive, more careful, more emotionally aware. And somehow, the score never improves. Now, why does this happen? There are 3 engines that power the moving target. Engine number 1 is adaptation. Humans get used to improvements fast. A new effort feels amazing for a week. Then it becomes normal. Then it becomes expected. And once it's expected, it stops earning gratitude. Now it's just the minimum to avoid a problem. Think about it. The first time you plan a thoughtful date, it feels special. By the 5th time, it's good. By the 10th time, it's, "Why don't you always do this?" And by the 20th time, if you miss one detail, it's treated like evidence you don't care. That's adaptation. Not evil, not gendered, just human wiring. Engine number 2 is expectation inflation. When someone feels emotionally unsafe inside, when they carry anxiety, insecurity, or unresolved pain, their expectations don't stay tied to reality. They inflate until the relationship becomes a test they can keep failing. To prove their fear was right. So it's not "I want connection," it becomes "I need perfect connection," on demand, with no delay and no imperfection, or it means I'm not loved. Do you hear how impossible that is? That's how a normal need turns into a moving target. Engine number 3 is comparison. Comparison turns a decent life into a disappointing life. And modern life is basically a comparison machine. Your partner sees someone else's highlight reel, someone else's perfect husband, someone else's trip, someone else's ring, someone else's renovation, someone else's attention, someone else's lifestyle. And suddenly the relationship isn't being measured against reality, it's being measured against a fantasy portfolio. And here's the part nobody says out loud. If someone is already carrying an inner emptiness, comparison gives that emptiness a direction. It says, there's the proof, there's what you're missing, there's why you're not happy. So these 3 engines, adaptation, inflation, comparison, create a loop, and once the loop is running, you can pour effort into it forever. It still won't settle. Now let's go one layer deeper, because this is where most people get tricked. The moving target doesn't feel like a mechanism. It feels like a moral verdict. It feels like you're being told you're failing as a man, failing as a partner, failing as a provider, failing as a person. And the reason it feels that way is because the feedback you get is usually global, not specific, and not "I felt lonely tonight." It becomes "you never show up," not "I'm stressed and overwhelmed." It becomes "you don't care about me," not "I need reassurance." It becomes "you're not enough." Global criticism is gasoline because you can't fix "you're not enough." There's no checklist for that. So what do? You start chasing the weather. You start trying to manage moods. You become hypervigilant. You start living for the next moment of peace, because peace becomes the reward. And that's how good people get trained into a slow collapse. Now, let me be very clear. A relationship can have conflict without having a moving target. A partner can have standards without being impossible. The difference is stability. In a healthy dynamic, you can address an issue and it actually resolves. There's repair. There's appreciation. There's a sense of "we're on the same team." In the moving target dynamic, repair doesn't land. It turns into a new demand, and the moment you meet the demand, the relationship simply raises the price again. Now here's a hard truth that will save you years. You cannot outperform someone's inner unrest. If they don't know how to regulate themselves, if they don't know how to hold gratitude, hold accountability, hold reality, your effort becomes fuel for the loop. Because every time you fix something, you teach the brain one lesson. Anxiety was correct. Something was wrong. Now we must search for the next wrong thing. That's why the target keeps moving. Not because you're worthless, not because you didn't try, but because the system is built to keep scanning for threat, deficiency, and lack. Now, stay with me, because in part 2 I'm going to give you the exact 3 signs that prove you're not just dealing with normal relationship problems. You're dealing with the moving target loop, and these signs are not vague. They're behavioral. You'll be able to spot them in a week, sometimes in a day. But before we go there, I need you to hear one thing that's going to hit you in the gut. The moving target doesn't just ruin relationships, it rewires you. It turns you into someone who second-guesses every sentence, someone who chooses silence over honesty, someone who confuses peace with love, someone who starts believing that tension is normal, because tension is familiar. And once that happens, you stop asking the most important question. Is this relationship making me healthier or smaller? Now I'm going to give you the 3 signs that tell you this isn't just normal relationship friction. This is the moving target loop, and if you keep feeding it, it will eat you alive. Sign number 1, repair doesn't stick. In a healthy relationship, you talk about a problem, you repair it, and there's a sense of closure. In the moving target loop, closure never arrives. You fix the thing they asked for, and instead of relief, you get a new charge. Not "thank you," not "I feel better," not "we're good." You get yeah, but you did it late. Yeah, but you only did it because I got upset. Yeah, but it shouldn't have taken this long. And suddenly the fix becomes proof you were wrong in the first place. Here's how you know. If solving the issue creates a new argument about the way you solved it, you're not solving problems, you're paying a toll to stay in the relationship. Sign number 2, the complaints go global. This is where it stops being about behavior and turns into a verdict on your character. Not "I felt lonely this week." It becomes "you never show up." Not "I need reassurance right now." It becomes "you don't care about me." Not "that hurt my feelings." It becomes "you're selfish." Global language is a trap because it's unfixable. How do you fix never? How do you fix "you don't care"? You can't, so you start overperforming to prove a negative. And the moment you start arguing your innocence, you've already lost. Because now the relationship becomes a courtroom, and you're the defendant every day. Here's the giveaway with global complaints. They rewrite your reality. You remember the times you showed up. You remember what you sacrificed, but none of it counts, because the system isn't tracking truth, it's tracking dissatisfaction. Sign number 3. You start living like you're managing a storm. You become a mood forecaster. You learn the facial expressions, you learn the tone shifts, you learn what topics are safe and what topics trigger a fight. You stop saying things you actually believe. You choose silence over honesty. You apologize faster than you think. And peace becomes the prize, because peace is the only moment you can breathe. That's the most dangerous part. When peace becomes the reward, you'll trade your self-respect for it without noticing. So quick recap, 3 signs. 1, repair doesn't stick. 2, complaints go global. Always, never, you don't care. 3, you're walking on eggshells, managing weather, shrinking to survive. Now here's the first pivot. This is where you stop feeding the loop. You stop responding to global accusations. You only respond to specifics. Let me give you the rule. If it's actionable, you engage. If it's global, you redirect. If it stays global, you disengage. Here's what that sounds like. I'm willing to talk about what happened, but I'm not going to argue with you never and you don't care. Tell me the specific moment, the specific behavior, and what you want instead. If we can't keep it specific, I'm going to take a break and we can talk when it's calm. That one move does two things. One, it forces the conversation back into reality. Two, it stops rewarding the system for being vague, emotional, and endless. Because the moving target feeds on one thing, your desperation to fix what can't be measured. The moment you require clarity, the loop either calms down or it exposes itself. Now, I'm going to give you the two exits. Exit 1 is the boundary framework that stops the bleeding without escalating. Exit 2 is the decision tree, how to tell if this can be repaired or if you're just signing up for years of slow collapse. Now we go tactical, 2 exits. Exit 1 stops the bleeding. Exit 2 tells you whether this can be repaired or whether you're signing up for years of slow collapse. Exit 1, the boundary framework. Not threats, not yelling, not coldness. A boundary is simply this: what you will engage with, what you won't, and what you do next. Here's the 3-step boundary that works in real life. Step 1, name the pattern. Step 2, demand specificity. Step 3, set a consequence and a return time. Let me show you exactly what that sounds like. I'm hearing a lot of always and never. I'm willing to talk about what happened, but only if it stays specific. Tell me the moment, the behavior, and what you want instead. If it turns into global attacks, I'm taking a 30-minute break and we'll come back when it's calm. Do you see what that does? It pulls the conversation out of emotion fog and back into reality, and it stops rewarding the moving target with endless attention. Now, most people mess this up in one way. They set a boundary and then they don't enforce it. That teaches the system one lesson. Push harder, he'll fold. So here's the rule: one boundary, one consequence, every time. If the conversation goes global, you do this. I'm not doing name calling. I'm not doing character attacks. I'm stepping away now. We can talk at 8:30 when we're both calm, and then you actually step away. No lecture, no final jab, no begging to be understood. Now I'm going to give you the second boundary. This one is a game changer. You stop negotiating emotions and start negotiating agreements. When someone says, "You don't care about me," you don't argue, "Yes, I do." You ask for an agreement. What does care look like this week? Give me 2 actions. Pick them, I'll do them, and you'll acknowledge it when it happens. Because the moving target survives on vagueness. Agreements kill vagueness. Now, if you want a simple structure, use this 4-line script. I want us to be good. I'm open to feedback when it's specific. I'm not available for global criticism or disrespect. If it happens, I'm taking space and we'll reset later. That's exit 1, boundary plus specificity plus enforcement. Now, exit 2 is harder because it forces you to face reality. Exit 2, the decision tree. Here are the 5 questions that decide everything, and I need you to answer them with behavior, not hope. Question 1. Do they take responsibility after they calm down? Not in the moment, later. Do they ever come back and say, "I crossed a line. I was unfair. I'm sorry"? Question 2. Do they accept specificity? When you ask, "What exactly happened?" do they answer, or do they escalate? If they refuse clarity, they're protecting the moving target. Question 3. Does repair lead to peace, or does repair become a new weapon? Healthy repair feels like relief. Moving target repair gets relitigated forever. Question 4. Is there reciprocity? Do your needs exist in the relationship, or is it a one-way emotional service contract? Question 5. Is respect stable? Not perfect, but stable. Because without respect, love turns into management. Now here's how you use the decision tree without overthinking. You run a 30-day experiment. Not a lifetime sentence. An experiment. For 30 days, you do 3 things. 1. You enforce the boundary every time, specific or disengage. 2. You ask for agreements, not emotions. 3. You track outcomes, not promises, and you look for 3 signals of change. Signal 1, the fights get shorter. Signal 2, the language gets more specific. Signal 3, accountability shows up without you begging for it. If those 3 signals appear, you may be dealing with a fixable dynamic. If those 3 signals do not appear, if it stays global, endless, disrespectful, then listen carefully. You're not in a problem you can solve. You're in a pattern that requires the other person to do inner work you cannot do for them. And that's the hardest truth. You can't boundary your way into someone else's maturity. You can create conditions for health. You can refuse dysfunction, but you cannot drag someone into accountability. So here's your final test. Simple and brutal. When you stop chasing the moving target, do they meet you in reality, or do they punish you for not chasing anymore? If they meet you in reality, there's hope. If they punish you, that tells you what the relationship was built on. Now I want to leave you with one line. Write it down. Peace is not the same thing as love, and love should not require you to become smaller. If this hit you, comment the words "moving target." And if you want, I'll do a follow-up with the exact phrases to set boundaries without escalating, and what to do when they try to bait you back into the loop.